Um, Basically, I had a well. These songs are kind of a composite of a lot of people that over the course of the last 7, 8 years plus that it took to put this album together and get it released. Um, there were a lot of setbacks, personal setbacks, and uh, one of my biggest setbacks was getting divorced. Never thought I would get divorced. Always had a pretty happy marriage. Um, but life sometimes throws the curveballs at you, and you just you deal with it the best you can. Um, I was surprised to see so many people in my generation going through divorces and disillusioned, and a lot of them kind of experiencing it during a sort of midlife crisis period. So, through the process of getting through my divorce, I would hear other people's stories, and they just kind of found their way into these songs. So, Burnin the Sun is kind of a composite of all these people, friends and family and acquaintances, whose stories I came across um, while I was going through my own divorce. And so, Burnin the Sun is these two people who meet online, and they connect. And this becomes a thing where these two people, really look forward to their time online. It's their means of escape. And Burnin the Sun kind of represents the idea of just taking off and abandoning the rut of one's responsibilities and all that stuff. So there's a line that says, "The soul that flies is on the lamb," and that's just a real line of adventure. Um, just taking off, driving into the sunset, and into the heart of adventure. 0 Hour. This is 0 Hour is a very personal song. It's my favorite one on the album, I think. It's okay. It's basically that moment when I realized that my marriage was over, and the fear that I've experienced in that moment, the dread of how am I going to make it, um, and just looking for any excuse to remain because of the fear of the unknown. Um, and so, as I said before, there's a lot of people I've talked to that went through a similar thing in their divorces. They put it off and put it off, and even when they knew it was over. And so the years just pass by, and pretty soon it's 5, 10 years later, and they're still in the same place, needing to make the same decision. So that's what that song kind of represents for me. Well, I think the central idea of gift is don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Um, Sometimes the right thing happens under the wrong circumstances or at the wrong time, and it's easy to look at such things as a curse. But you know, you have to recognize when the blessings happen. They're not always going to come in the form of the way that you want them to. This one was it was kind of a breakthrough in my writing. Um, I've been trying to kind of get a little bit heavier. I think with the second Widetrack album, like one of the things that I tried to do. Um, well, let me back up. The first Widetrack album was mostly written on my acoustic guitar in my room, trying to be quiet while my wife was asleep upstairs. And so the songs have a certain mellow quality about them, a kind of a subdued quality. And when I started working with Kurt Harms, the guitar player, lead guitar player who played on the second Widetrack album, Kurt came from a heavy metal background, and we were really interested in finding middle ground to work together, because we really were inspired by each other's creativity, but we were kind of coming from different worlds to a certain degree. So I was trying to push the envelope as far as how heavy I could become without becoming quote unquote metal. And so that was what the second album was. And so when I went to start writing for the third album, I was like, you know, we can still go further with this. I think intensity is the key to this stuff, and when we play the stuff live, we really want it to be just maximum energy and emotion and intensity. Anyway, when I started writing for the album, I figured, you know, this could go a little further in that direction, and so that's how Unknown came about. I'm pretty pleased with the music on that. And then when Brian put his parts to it, his lead guitar parts, I was just, yeah, now we're really getting into a cool place here. I think this is like the part of the album where it's like people are gonna say, wow, okay, you guys are really amping it up here, even more so than the second album. So yeah, we're really pleased with that one. And lyrically, I think it's just coming from a place of living in uncertainty, and you know, that kind of thing. The other, this is where the lyrics start getting really dark. Um, I dealt with some extreme anger during the aftermath of my divorce. And, you know, you kind of look at things in hindsight, and you say, wow, who was that person? You know, and I think that's what the other kind of represents is. And it's another one where we really wanted to go heavy. We got the drop D guitars, and it's one I'm really looking forward to playing live. I think it'll be a fun one to play. Once again, I really dig what Brian put to it. He really took these songs up a notch, at least 11 notches. So yeah. So Lovelace is the point where these two characters in this story, um, the newness of their relationship has worn off, and they are still the unhappy people that they've been in their other relationships, and now they're at each other's throats, half the time at each other's throats and the other half of the time just shutting down and dealing with demons in mistaken, misguided ways. You know, when you're grieving lost dreams and experiencing disillusion, grief is a really selfish emotion, and there's going to be a lot of projecting in that regard. So that's kind of what this song represents. Pretty dark song. Desolate. This one is really fun to play on the drums. It's just a beat that I had going through my head, and I worked it out. And it's a weird timing. I think it's in 7 or 6. I don't even know what time it's in. Zach could tell you. But it was just a little thing that I recorded, and I wasn't going to include it on the album, but then we started playing around with different sounds, and when Brian put the talk box to it, you know, it really kind of, you know, this is the point in the story where these two people are not talking, or they've talked, but they're not hearing each other, and so that talk box kind of represents, I don't know if you ever saw the old Charlie Brown Peanuts episodes, but anytime the adults were talking, it's all wah, 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 you know. There weren't real words coming out. You don't even know what they're saying. It's just blah, blah, blah. And it could also represent the echoes, the voices in the head. This person is alone. This person knows that he has pushed the other person too far, and she's gone. She's not dealing with this, and he's alone, and he's hearing all these voices, and he's angry, and yeah, I think that mood was captured really well with that one. Once it all came together, so. Ghosts. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones. I was really insecure about the song for a while because the guitar part that I wrote to it was just so basic. It's basically 2 notes through the whole song. But the drum part is like, I think it's the best drum beat I've ever written. It's really difficult to play, but we were really happy with the way it turned out. I think the mix on this one, I was really impressed with the mix that Andy Padalin did on this song, and he was able to capture the moods of the vocals, this kind of haunted, this person haunted by how he's perceived he's been done wrong, and this person is angry, and this person feels betrayed and abandoned, and Brian's guitars with the screaming guitars at the beginning, and then the flourishes in the mellow parts, and it's I just love it. I think he did such a great job. And this one was a workout for Zach on the bass, and when we first recorded Zach he was still finding his way with this one, and we got a recording of it, and then a couple months later when we were in the studio mixing it, he wanted to redo it in the studio because he's like, man, he's developed so much over the last year that he just keeps getting better. So up until the 11th hour of recording, we were redoing Zach's bass parts because they were so much better than when we first demoed these songs. So this song is a good example of where he adds a couple nice little fills, and he's just really lighting it up on this one. So yeah, I'm just super happy with the way this one turned out. Hindsight. Yeah, this is kind of the key moment of the storyline where kind of moment of clarity, where this person just kind of takes a look at the fallout from his behavior and his choices, and yeah, so this one is the newest song of everything. Like, some of these songs date back to 2010, 2011. I basically started writing for this album right after the second album was done. And each album kind of has a lesson, you know. The first one, as I said, was like, let's get heavier. It'll be much more fun to play these songs live if there's some energy and some heaviness to them. And then with the third album, I said to myself, you know, just because you write something doesn't mean it has to go on the album. So let's up the bar. Let's raise the bar and really have a good selection of songs. And the only way to do that is write a lot of songs. And so that's the other reason why this album took so long, was I just wanted to keep writing songs until I felt I'd broken through to another dimension, or whatever you want to call it, of songwriting. And so Hindsight was like song number 53 or something like that. It was like I came up with about 60 different songs or song ideas. And Hindsight was one of the last ones. And I just thought it really fit in nicely. It had its own feel and its own mood. And, you know, the lyrics to it were just like fit right in that spot of the story where, you know, man, I really screwed up, and I'm gonna have to accept the consequences of my actions. And I thought that was a real positive turning point in the Widetrack catalog, because, you know, something that we were talking about the other day is those first two Widetrack albums have a lot of similar themes, you know, of just feeling trapped and feeling dark and feeling hopeless in a lot of ways. And it's not easy stuff to choke down in some regards. And so the process through that, I think this song is where things start coming out of that. And from this point, the album is positive. It starts heading back into the light, starts finding its way. Life Force. This was a strange one. I wrote this on the acoustic guitar in about 20 minutes one night. I was just really inspired and in a really excited mood. and I sat down and hammered it out, and it was done. And the lyrics took a little bit longer, as they always do. Lyrics don't come easy for me. I tend to let them just come out as they want to, so to speak. I don't ever sit down and say I'm going to write a song about. I just try and sing along with the music I write, and sounds come out, and I eventually find melodies I like, and then eventually those melodies will develop into lyrics. And so when the lyrics to this came out, they were really positive and really like this is the moment of the album where it's like, seize your moment in life. This is it. This is all you got. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is, make the most of this. And but the most important line of the song to me is the end of the end of the intro verse, where it says, so the words start off, "This world spares no one, all will mourn their loss." And the key line is the next line, "Some fight for their hearts still." And I think that's the thing is, a lot of the people that I've come to know, myself included, have hit a certain age where they just become disillusioned and they become cynical. And it takes some hardship in life sometimes to realize that you have to fight for your optimism and your hope, and you have to nurture that inner child, that innocence and that sense of curiosity and wonder, and fight off the idea that, oh, I've been there, done that, life is just, it's a pain and blah blah blah. It's very easy to grow into a cynical person, and this song is about keeping your life force alive. Very inspiring. Transcend. This is the first love song I've written for a Widetrack, and it's just kind of to go along with the story. It's about surrendering to the person. You can't be a loner in a team, two-person relationship. You have to be vulnerable, and that takes a lot of courage, and it takes patience, and it takes risk. But there's no other way to do it. And so this is the point where one realizes that, I surrender to you. I'm here for us. This is not about me being comfortable or me being satisfied in my needs. This is about us. This is about what that requires. And also, I think the idea of all the hardships of the outside world and all the things that might threaten a relationship. This is about coming together and transcending those things. Having a shelter from those things together. Still here. This is the this is the last tune on the album. It's basically I just love the title, and the music came out pretty quickly for this one. I think I seem to remember, but I just thought the title can be taken so many different ways, and it can be taken in a positive way. It can be taken in a negative way. It can be taken in kind of a neutral way. The idea of still here, hey, we're still here, victorious, or I'm still here, you know, being in a rut, or I'm surviving, you know, I'm still here, I'm not dead yet, or whatever. But more than anything for me, I think it just means sticking and showing up and realizing that it's about the journey. You know, no new lessons here. I think this album is just discovering the relevance of old lessons, and you know, it's easy to hear some words of wisdom and go, yeah, we all know that. But when you experience something where these things are applicable, it's, you know, that's kind of what happened to me personally speaking during the making of this album. You know, I came to realize it's like, just keep going, just keep going, don't stop, you know. And you know, it can get tiresome. You can feel beaten sometimes, but then the next day you try again. And we have, you know, the album closes with the idea of this moment right here. This is where everything, this is where all the power is. And you know, what your meaning is going to be will help you harness that power. So that's kind of the idea with that. I really like the solo Brian does in this. This is kind of like his moment on the album. He wanted to save the solo for this song to be the very last thing that he did, that he recorded. And it was so funny because we set up to record, and I was manning his laptop while we were recording his lead to this, and we got the sounds and everything, and he took a run through and played it one time, and I said, well, that's it, you're not doing it again. And he was like, what? Wait a minute, what are you talking about, man? I said, dude, you nailed it, first take. And I played it back for him, and he was like, wow. But I think it had been building up in him for so long that when it finally came time to rip it out, he was just bursting with that energy. And that's a moment I'm proud to have captured on the album, and the fact that the album closes with that. Especially since the album kind of does it peaks in terms of its heaviness, and then it kind of mellows out a little bit at the end, but that very ending, the guitar solo is just, it's on fire. And I think live we can really stretch that out and expand on it, and I think that's the case with a few of these songs, is they can be expanded upon in a live setting. So we're really looking forward to seeing how that can come together. I think there will be some nice surprises to us as musicians once we really start doing a lot of shows and experiencing these songs night after night, and the evolution of them as live songs. I think it's going to be really exciting. We're really looking forward to playing this stuff for people.